So that's watching, but how do you join
Yeah, I'm
it?
just watching it from.
Oh, you know what? Maybe I have to.
Yeah, so we did. They didn't do a press release. We ended up just having Kenneth Pennington.
What's your email?
M-Y-A-R-D-D.
Y-A-R-D-E.
Yeah, we're at Wired, Wall Street Journal.
Y-A-R-D-D.
At Gmail.
Yeah. Brady worked on it too.
Cool.
Worked on it. Yeah,
Yep.
excited it. We did like iOS app.
Dang, I can't make it
Swift,
public.
And
I'm just
then
letting
the
people
Rails
join.
API backend. Android comes out maybe this week.
On the backend, like what? Library on the backend.
Yeah, so it's basic like Rails backend, but it uses Rails API rather than.
So it should
like
shoot you a
Rails,
link
so
that
it's a
will let
subset.
you join.
Are you a Rails user?
Well,
at all?
it's slimmed down, right?
So
It's now
are you using it just to organize like collections?
Yeah, so we use active model serializers. Yeah, so it's pretty awesome. It's actually going to be part of Rails 5, I think. And it just has AMS has both like a serialization layer.
Oh, so it
and
shows
then
up in
just,
Hangout?
Just that. Didn't get
like
an email.
I don't know the best way of putting it. Adapter layer. So there's like the JSON API adapter. So you describe a serializer and it looks kind of like a plain old Ruby
That's what
object.
you want.
You can write some like attributes which are similar to like the Rails
Cool. So
attributes
hit
you
join.
see, and then on top of that you can
yes.
describe some like custom attributes inside of it. So I have like that.
Okay, guys, I think something's working.
I'm dealing with a model issue.
Okay.
I'm not
So I think you're broadcasting, so
with
you
project
just
right now.
Present.
pass it.
I'm calling in JSON data from Clover, POS
Nice.
system.
Did that change you presenter?
Yeah.
Sick. So now, so you can hit screen share.
And every time I
Yeah.
get the data.
So you can either, if you're gonna be in one thing, you can probably just share the screen of that app, or you can do the desktop, I think, and you can just swap between apps if you're gonna be jumping around. Yeah.
Right.
How did you get them to speak to each other?
What do you mean? Like I've got just like an API layer, and then on the Swift side, I ended up writing like custom models. So there's a library that's a little bit new, but some of the active model serializers guys are actively working on
Is there a remote?
to try and, actually have not only the capability to have like a pretty decent translation layer between your standard JSON API format and what you have in Swift, but also be able to get some of that data local. So like use Realm, for example, and actually cache some of that information, which is like really critical to us. We actually cache all the like issue information. So all of that stays, offline. I think it's like an initial 2 megabyte JSON download or something like that, and then it stays there forever. So if your phone goes offline, you're talking to somebody at the door, you don't want to lose the ability to like reference policy information. So it's pretty neat to have that. But, all like the JSON API relationships and stuff like that are all complex. So that live wasn't ready, by the time we needed it. So we just kind of wrote it
It wasn't
ourselves.
going anywhere.
I think I killed it.
It was painful.
But it's really easy kind of adapter layer that I get used to. It's just like,
And now he took it over.
well, JSON API.
Yeah.
So JSON API it's just objects with a type and ID and attributes.
Yeah.
That's right. That's it. Really, that's the basics of it.
Did you fly out there yet?
I finished just like JSON API itself is like
What?
Steve Klebnik.
Nice.
He's like
So,
one of the
1.13?
guys working on Rust.
Not yet.
He's a Rust core contributor.
What did you do?
But now I
he
think I just need to read the
actually
sessions.
work
Yeah.
on the JSON API stuff together. So it's just a
Like,
specification for how JSON API should work.
Like the section with the
If you go like JSON dash
Yeah,
API,
what about it?
I forget how to.
Is this getting like
Well,
the pause sticking
before
together?
1.13,
That,
you
one of
use
those toughest things in the world.
reject
especially,
session.
for some reason,
Yeah.
it's
Like,
on a bunch of different
but I
projects,
don't remember. You
is,
maybe
like,
you know
no
what is
consistency
try
between
to.
what any of
Are you
these
talking
But
about
it-
services or
And so having
I don't remember.
initializers?
a standard
I
of
don't
some
remember.
sort, you know,
Okay.
something that we
But
all look
I
at and
just
agree is
need
like
to
What version are
something
you on?
reasonable to work on.
I'm right now
I think actually
1.12.
like JSON
Oh, so you're
API
close.
as an
You're
advanced
really
person
close.
is
Yes,
like,
I
default,
think
you know.
I'm
fix all the
extremely
obvious
Like
impressed.
Ember data is
That
supposed to
just
having like
fix it.
JSON API
I'm
is kind
I'm
of
extremely
what was
impressed.
expected out of the
That's a
box.
big app.
Still
It used to
so
be the active model adapter.
Yeah, it took like 3
which
months.
maps
to
to
figure
almost-
out.
yeah, it's almost 3 months,
It's like 0.8,
Yeah, we were working on other stuff
branch.
in between.
But
Mm,
0 to 10 is now
Nope.
like
She just let you
Proper
work on
commonly,
this.
yes.
Wow, I'm impressed.
Yeah.
pretty interesting.
Did you have to finish the scheduling
mean,
stuff
My
first?
JSON's coming from Clover
No, no.
and I.
The
The book session,
booking
you know?
session.
Yes, the book session.
Oh,
What we
nice.
get.
Yes, I finished the book
Yeah.
session like
So I mean, you need a
The
middle
first
layer
week of
anyways,
November.
but
Yeah,
and moved it to upgrade.
crazy man.
that's
Yes.
Did you have a
unfortunate.
good holiday?
Like
Yeah.
we kind of need
Yeah,
the same
I did.
thing because we're trying to.
Are you going to EmberConf?
We haven't
Yes,
done it yet,
I-
but we're trying to get data from.
Friends, but my
Good
Like,
job.
Yeah.
Nice.
See you there.
Yeah, I will see you there. I'm staying in a house with Tracy Lee.
Oh,
but
nice.
Of course,
Tora.
we can't hook up to the van directly, so we've got this middle layer that we're working
think
on to
Stefan was in
translate
that
things
house.
from our domain model to their domain model and back again. So it's kind of this
I
like
think I'm
two
going
ways
to
to the street.
stay
Yeah,
all
it's
the way.
packaging, unpackaging.
I'm staying
Yeah.
the whole week.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so I'm
Sunday
working on
through
the Iowa
Friday.
Try to
Lily and Iowa Center
towards
for
the
project.
place.
Yeah, a little bit.
We're
I think.
using,
I mean, Tracy Lee
Clover,
loves food.
and
Like
Clover's
she's a
running
foodie, so
cars.
I'm sure she'll take us to
I
some
follow
amazing
her
places.
Instagram and
Yeah.
Where we do our-
I 100% agree.
Yeah.
And then as
Hoping
an
maybe
iOS
she can take me
developer, I'm
shopping.
in
She
I'm
has some
dealing
good
with
stuff.
parse.
Yeah.
Where's the
But it's
Ember
like.
Portland,
Portland?
where it is every year.
Oh,
Forever and always, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah, forever until Tilda
Heritage or
decides to move
something.
further
Right.
north to like
Uh,
I don't know Seattle.
Parts, parts of my opinion has been
They
kind of
won't.
difficult to work with in the past.
Really?
Yeah,
Vancouver's
we
beautiful.
actually came in and worked on a project where we had an iOS developer, who's Kieran.
Yeah.
Kieran was working on this project like as like the only guy, and he was doing like iOS and parse as the back end and all this stuff, and like the parse stuff was taking 80% of his time.
Yeah.
So he just came in and said, let's just do this Rails API.
He's working on Parse again now at our company.
Really?
Yeah, he said it's come a long way. That's what he said. He's working on our new
I mean,
product.
they just did like a new facelift. So like it's nice to work with. I mean, it's my first time working with it, and like it's so close. Like it's so close to what I want. But it's like I don't know. I think part of the issue is that we have to pull several, like we have to pull 3 different JSON files from Clover, and then we have to like map them. So we have to unpackage 3 different JSON objects, flatten out the table. And
You guys ready?
Yeah, I think so. Sorry, Dose. Carry it on after. Okay, welcome everybody to our Ember meetup this January. We are lucky enough to have Michael Yared here from out of town coming to visit. He's very well known in the community and he works for EchoBind. So thanks for coming. I don't have really any announcements before we get started. So if any of you are working on something cool though and you want to give a talk at our next meetup, please come and talk to me. We could even do like lightning talks if you have something short. So that's all I got. So let's get started.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks again for having me. So I sent Heather a couple ideas on what she thought the group would be most interested in. And so what we ended up with was adding life to your app, basically with draggable functionality. So these are the 2 things that we're gonna talk about today. Hoping that what we get out of this is to kind of showcase 2 different Ember add-ons that I've used in products that are out in production. What I've liked about them, what I haven't. Show you how you can actually trigger actions with just a couple lines of code and leverage some event hooks to do some pretty cool stuff without having to do a whole lot. See some live examples and then touch on a few issues or pain points that exist. So just a quick about me. My name is Michael Yared. I currently live and grew up in Louisville, Kentucky. Went to school in Bloomington, Indiana at Indiana University. Bounced all around Tampa, Chicago. I lived here for 7 years, which that pin's gold. I don't know if you can see, but it's because that was the best place to live. And then now I'm back in Louisville again. So of all the places I've lived, my clients are always other places. And, so I do quite a bit of traveling. And so, if you guys attend any of the other meetups around the country, I try to get to as many as I can. My goal this year is to get to 6 new ones that I haven't been to. So I'm starting off quick with you guys. The other thing is I run the Ember meetup in Louisville. So our meetup is about half the size of this. We just started last summer, but we're picking up people slowly, and so it's going well. We'll see. So quick note, I guess, before we start, just to kind of set the stage for this. If anybody's built drag and drop functionality into their apps before, you've probably done so either with an existing library or you've done it with just the native API. I do talk to a lot of people at work, or when we are discussing drag and drop, and people are like, oh, well, don't use a library, just write it yourself. And I agree. Like, if you have the ability to just tap into the API, go for it. What I found is there's, in the Ember world, there's usually a couple problems with that. And so step one is what happens is you'll write all your features and you'll write your test from scratch. It's exactly the way you want it. But then, step two, you see that you might want to use it on some other app, and you're like, well, it would be nice if I kind of pulled some of this out. So then you go through the pain of extracting the features, generalizing them, making an add-on, calling it, some repo that you share internally, and ultimately you're adding it as though it's an add-on anyway. And I feel like, with something that's been well tested, you really just have the ability to type the one line and you're good to go. So I assume a lot of you already know about Ember Observer. Does anyone not? It's pretty good. It's a pretty good site. It's I think only about a year old now, but it is a great place if you're looking to add functionality to your app. I would start with Ember Observer. It's run by Katie Gengler and Phil Gengler, and they did a really good job of throwing it together. And so what I did for this talk was I just went through and just to see if the two add-ons that we're talking about are the top, and they are. So for drag and drop functionality, Ember drag drop is what we're going to talk about. And on the sortable list side, Ember sortable. The one thing I'd say, it's also a big benefit of using one of these, is that there is some functionality that still needs help. So you could kind of be that superhero and help contribute stuff. I think when we're talking about open source, people tend to, if they're new to it, shy away just because they think, oh, well, I think all the easy stuff's done. There's still, probably just the hard issues remaining. In these projects, there's actually some stuff that, yes, it would take some time, but it's maybe like 3 days worth of work. So it's funny looking at all the issues that are open. Everyone's going back and forth and saying, when I have a couple days, when I have a couple days. And I think these are opportunities for people who are looking to get into open source. So drag and drop, we'll talk about that first. This is one of the example that Ember drag drop has on their websites. If you go, you can see a bunch of different demos on that link. But basically, it's clicking some element on your screen, moving it to an area where you can drop it, and as you're clicking it, you'll see that the state changes and some actions trigger. So once you've actually installed this with your one line of Ember install, you really only need these couple lines of code. You wrap whatever component or piece of data that you want to move around the screen in something called draggable object. And then you have the ability to add, if you want, 2 other actions, the start action and the end action, which we'll show a little bit more of. And then you pick the area where you want to drag it to, and you wrap that in draggable object target, and you can have a secondary action off that. And basically, you've done it. So if you want to look at the controller, it's pretty straightforward, but you can end up building a lot into this so that while things are dragging, when they've started, when they've stopped, and everything in between, you can have different parts of your app responding differently. So the one example I put here is just setting, a property called isDragging. So while somebody's in the process of dragging, you can go back to your templates and you can have an if else that looks at this specifically that says, if you're in the state of dragging, do something cool or change, something visually so that people know what state they're in. Sortable lists are similar. I'd say the one key difference is that, everything that when you're looking at a sortable list, everything is contained within that same group. So you're probably not dragging items across into an area that you're dropping it. You're actually dragging an item and causing the order of all the other items to change as well. So one example that I'll show you later is, Trello is a very good example of how I think sortable lists work. And with Ember sortable, the demos here, they're not just, vertical lists. There's horizontal. You can do it like tabular data. So if you wanted to just add this to your table, you could actually move cells and items within your table, just move rows completely. So if you were to just look in your app today and find just something that you're iterating over, in this example, users, you could go through and you could say, okay, well, if I'm going to print out every user name and their email, then maybe I want to move those people around and order them in some fashion. The each is a big indicator that this is, again, probably more appropriate for a sortable list versus just drag and drop in general. But the nice thing is you wrap your elements. This could be a single component or it could be multiple things into a sortable item. You pass the model that you care about. And as far as the group goes, you just tie it back to the sortable group container. So here, every time something changes, we have this on change action that is basically, we're set as reorder items. And in the controller, it will fire off and do whatever we want it to do. So a couple projects I've worked on, as users are changing things, every time they change something, it saves it. We hit the API and that changes there permanently. So if somebody else is looking at the very same screen, the next time they call, that'll be updated. Other projects, you may not want that functionality. You may want to say, reorder it all, but I want a separate action that's, specifically like a button that says, no, save this now. That way you have the ability to try things before you're actually committing to it. That would require one more action here, but basically you're getting the same thing. The two things that you can pass in, item models and dragged item. Item models, it's just really the new order of what it is that you changed. And then drag model is just the model that you just were moving around. So a couple live examples. As I mentioned, Trello. I think this is one that, if you've used the site before, it's the first thing I think of when I'm thinking either drag and drop or sortable lists. There's a lot that you can do, very quickly. And I think this type of pattern is appropriate for lots of different companies. So I'm working with a healthcare company at the moment, and the way that Trello lists their cards is very similar to how this healthcare company builds their apps and they sort their data. So I think I end up seeing this more than anything. You guys maybe know Google Plus. It's this old experiment that Google did that never worked, but I think their user interactions, when you're actually saving users to certain groups, I always thought that was pretty interesting use case. You're moving people around visually, you're dropping it in, and then they have animations that are based on it. So while nobody really uses it, and I actually went into this week just to take this quick little animated GIF, I realized I've talked to a lot of these people in forever. So this is years old. Balsamic, there's a couple other sites where you can go online and actually build out wireframes. And if you were going to go, I'd say this is probably on the high level of complexity, would be building something where you're actually manipulating shapes. Even the concept of building a keynote presentation, you're really just dragging and dropping items and manipulating them and then saving the state so that you can see it later. With the two examples that I showed earlier of drag, drop, and sortable lists, you have that ability within just those two things to basically build this out. And it just takes more work to, come up with the graphics associated with it. And then the last thing I'll show is if you go on D3.js, you'll find a lot of different data manipulation options that include dragging and dropping. And this is just one of them. But basically, you have the ability to like just drop this code directly in your Ember app, leverage the event hooks, and then start showing and saving your data accordingly. So, you know, every time I talk to people and, you know, at the company I'm working at or, you know, just in passing, it's, you know, when we say drag and drop or sortable lists, you know, what does it work well with? To us, you know, it's when you want to manipulate data visually, that's probably a good application. So a couple of the issues that I've run into with these add-ons. On Ember drag drop, mobile doesn't work out of the box. So you have to add this shim to basically get that to work. And it says it's an iOS one, but it works for Android as well. Another issue that I had for a client was having multiple draggable targets on the same page. And the way that Ember drag drop works is it uses a service. So that service works very well if you have one instance of it. But if you try to leverage this in multiple places, they all call back to the same service. And right now, basically, if you were to have, you know, multiple columns and you were to change one thing in one column, it would reflect in all the other columns. So that is an open issue and certainly something that I think would be a big improvement for Ember drag drop. Ember sortable, the only thing that I've really run into that's been a huge issue is the ability to sort items between multiple sort groups. So unlike Ember drag drop, you can have multiple groups. You just can't go in between the groups themselves with your data. That's something they've been, you know, trying to get through since summer, and it's just, I think, you know, takes somebody's dedicated attention for a couple of days to get it done. As far as other projects, there are some other projects in the community. There's a lot of other projects like, you know, jQuery UI, where you've probably seen a lot of the same behavior. These are nice because, again, you know, they're pretty well tested, and outside of a couple open issues, I think they, you know, you see a lot of people in the community using them, so you know that they're in production, they're working, and that part's really nice. This is one that I haven't yet tested, so I don't have any experience with, but Dragula's got a lot of support around it, and this is just Ember Dragula as a wrapper for it. This will probably be the next thing I test, but you know, if you go to their website, you can, you know, immediately start playing with a lot of this, and the issues that I just described that the other two have, this one does not seem to have. It's just that the Ember version, or the Ember add-on rather, is not as mature. So I think, you know, until more people start using it and trying it, and there's more than a couple issues that have been reported, you know, it's one of those things where it's hard to say, yes, like, let's take this to production, and, you know, you're going to probably be the one to find the bugs if you were to do that. So that's kind of it. I wanted to, you know, leave some time for questions, but, you know, hopefully, if you haven't played with drag and drop or any scrollable stuff, this, you know, shows you that it is pretty straightforward. It is easy. It's not something to be afraid of. There's, you know, they're both very well documented. So when you look at event hooks or any actions that you can trigger, you know, the examples are like crystal clear. It's something that, you know, won't take a lot of time to get started. And I think it's always, you know, it's always interesting to take an app that you already have, maybe show somebody like a page where this would be applicable, and then just add it just to show them that, you know, everybody's used to using it this way. But if you were to just add this, you know, a couple lines code, you can literally, you know, start doing some stuff visually that you might be using buttons for, or, you know, other events. So yeah, that's it. Thank you guys for listening. And if there are any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.